What's up everyone, DJ Rick Web here. In this video, we're gonna be going through my complete setup for 2025, what all I'm using in all of my DJ setups this year, and how it is incredibly efficient, and I can literally set up all of this with an assistant in less than 20 minutes. Fully set, ready to go with movers, tubes, uplighting, full DJ audio. We're all set, ready to go. Let's get into it in this video. All right, so that is everything for my normal wedding reception nowadays that I'm selling for my events. I am charging quite a bit more now for my setups and my events, of course, as I've expanded, now doing this for over 13 years. This is the traditional setup though, in terms of all the gear that I'm bringing. I have a 12x6 trailer that I pull all this. Basically, we have uplighting in this, uplighting, intelligent movers, and tubes with the full DJ reception audio package as well. I'm gonna go ahead and put a black backdrop right here. Slight change of plans, put it over here. We're gonna be setting up the full setup and I'm gonna be walking you guys through step by step. So I'm gonna basically walk you guys through the whole entire setup process. By myself, I will need some assistance getting Burf out of the case. But other than that, I'm gonna do the whole thing by myself to show you guys the whole process. I will add that typically at an event, we're of course gonna lay out our setup to see where is the best place for us to set up. Best case scenario is we have this setup right here where the dance floor is right in front of us and we can set up our whole DJ setup and we can do a lot of symmetry items. Sometimes though, they tell you the DJ needs to be set up in the corner. This might be the dance floor, might be a sweetheart table here. So in that case, your DJ setup would stay over there, but your speakers and your lighting would be symmetrical to the room, to the dance floor for the best case scenario. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started with the setup. Now, I will say this whole setup is really quick to put together, especially if you have an assistant. If you guys don't have an assistant, I highly recommend it. But the main thing I'm gonna start with is my core items. So I'm gonna start with all my structural pieces to get them all symmetrical, and then cabling is the absolute last thing we're gonna actually worry about. So for me, the first thing I'm gonna do is get my back rack right here, which has 2 table wings. We're gonna set that up first. So this right here is my custom built audio rack that goes behind my DJ booth. And the lids on the front and the back have actually been retrofitted with little tabs and feet that make these tabletops. So these ends conveniently just clip on to either side, like so. And I can do the same thing for the other side. And then I have a giant, I believe it's a little bit over 8 foot long, back table that's at a nice height for anybody that needs to work, or this is a good spot to be eating. We're gonna put a facade up and it's gonna be all hidden back behind. I have mounted these pins right here that correspond with these latches right here. And then the table rack goes on here, and I actually put a Sharpie to indicate which hole this goes in to line up with the right height. So of course these collapse down in when it's in storage and flat. You lift these up, and then it makes it easier to find which pin it needs to go in by using the Sharpie. So quickly though, this is the audio rack. It is currently in year 5 of service. Been putting in a lot of work since 2020. So it does need some things upgraded this year that we're gonna be doing later on, but we have a passive antenna combiner currently. Allows me to put all of my mics here. I got a router in the back to control my drive rack PA2. We have ports already pre-ran for my 3 outputs from the drive rack. I have 2, these are just standard inputs for whatever I might need into my Yamaha. Those are my inputs for my DJ booth and power input, making things nice and easy. As you guys can see here, there's also enough room in here that I keep my gig tote, which has a variety of random supplies, batteries, the mics I need, and my cable tote with all the cables I need for all my events. Coming back behind, currently right now, have a Yamaha, just an analog board right here. This is planning to be switched out this year for an Allen and Heath 12-channel board, hopefully. We have a Furman power conditioner. We have our drive rack PA2, and currently right now I have 2 Audio-Technica mics, probably gonna upgrade to having 4 in this unit later on this year is kind of the plan. So, and then on the front, there's a whole power strip down here to plug in anything, and that's of course linked into the Furman as well. So that is our back audio rack. All right, so with the center rack in place, now we're gonna move on to setting up the gravity stand and the speakers. Of course, now this starts our symmetry, so we can set up our things accordingly. So I'm probably gonna set up the speakers next, with our movers being after that. And typically I like my speakers to be out the furthest of the things, mostly because the speakers are black and I try to want to like blend those in as best as possible. So I'm going to position my gravity base plates and my speakers accordingly on both sides. And my speakers of choice are still the LD Maui 44 G2s. These are my workhorses that I use for 90% of my events. I will say the bags they've been torn to shreds. We've been putting them through their usage. These are also about 4 to 5 years old now at this point. The zippers on my main bags do not work at all. They just could not handle the abuse, but they still work as a padded cover for the tops. So I can set that aside. The bottom ones have fared a little bit better. The pouch is a little bit ripped, but allows us to keep the power cable right in the back. And this is our sub base bottom. So I'm gonna set it out here on the edge, matching what I did on the other side. And then the back base plate here, it just clamps on. You can take it off very easily. I do really like the caster plates for the 44 G2s. We also have the LD Systems Maui 28 G3s. Those, on the other hand, those base plates do not clamp on, and they kind of suck, to be honest. I will also add the 44s. We've noticed these pins here on the bottom. A lot of these come loose, so you just kind of have to snug them up. Only on the bottom one, only on the bottom stick. It's kind of interesting. These are my workhorses, the 44 G2s. Been using them now for 4 years. Basically, any wedding that is under about 180, I bring these to. When I get a wedding that is over 200 people, I will upgrade to the bigger system, which you guys can go check out on the channel, the other videos of the bigger system I'm using right now, which is 2 of the LD ICOA 18s with RCF NXL 24 MK2s. So way bigger of a sound system that can do 200 to 400 people. If I add more subs, I can do 600-ish for some of our proms. The workhorse right now is the 44 G2s. And I can tell you right now, I've used and abused these. I've been pushing them to the limit at all my events. They've been very reliable and get the job done really, really well. So a little close-up view, as you can see, used and abused. These are all the dents, nicks, and bangs and everything from being inside of the bags that I use. Really just there's some minor blemishes on the front of the grill, but overall, been held it up very good in terms of overall durability. Like I said, tried and true. These things are amazing. And of course, I love the black versions because all of these blemishes and everything are not noticeable. If you had the white versions, you'd see all that. So if you guys get the white versions, highly recommend you get flight cases for them. Black versions, the bags are solid. They're very nice. Moving on to gravity stands though, this is what you really need to buy bags for. I've had the black ones for years without any cases or bags, and they are destroyed. Like, they have more nicks and dings than anything imaginable. The base plates literally are terrible. So if you guys are gonna get white gravity stands or even the black ones, I actually highly recommend you get the bags for them. They just help keep them nice and clean for a long period of time. But we're gonna put the gravity stand over here, and I always like to, what we're gonna be doing is mounting our movers on top, our battery powered movers. And I like to stagger them on the edges here, especially if I'm tight on space. We're using about 20 feet across here to get this whole setup in here. So I like to push the base plate out a little bit, so that way the mover has more full range, so it doesn't actually nick the speaker at all. And sometimes I might push those speakers back even further towards the wall. Just for the example today, that's where we got them at. And guys, this right here, these gravity stands are absolutely the reason why I've switched from trussing. And I made a whole video on gravity stands, but literally, maybe one more turn, I'm done. Simple pole, simple base plate. I now have a full mover setup ready to go for my events. I don't have to worry about pins. I don't have to worry about assembling collapsible trussing. These right here are a game changer in making your setup quick and efficient. Now with all the core items out of the way and fully set up, the last things we need to do are put the movers up on top of our stands, get our tubes and our base plates assembled there, put Bertha in place, our facade, and cable everything together. And in terms of cabling, it is very minimal in terms of what we're doing. I have one cable that will come from Bertha back to the audio rack. We need to run power and audio to both speakers and power to the main rack. And that's it, because all of our lighting is battery powered in 2025. This right here, guys, is Bertha. If you've never seen Bertha before, highly recommend you go check out some of my other videos. This is my custom turntable booth that I built back in the winter of 2020, and it's been my go-to ever since. It's had some upgrades down the line in terms of how it's evolved with the different changes I've now done with lighting and also upgrading the actual platters inside. But we're gonna get Berfa out of here to show you a little bit about what Berfa is. This is a custom built road case that I did myself. Custom built road cases like this cost a few $1,000s, maybe 1,000 something plus. And I was able to make the whole thing for I think like 300 bucks in materials. I do need to split this in half. I've had the parts to do it for years now. It's literally sitting in the box over there in the warehouse. It's on my list to get done this year, so that way I can actually do this by myself, but it is a 2-person ordeal. Conveniently though, I always bring 2 people to my events. Pretty simple though, we got a couple latches, lift it up. And this is no short of a 2-person operation. Get that up over top. But this is Berfa right here. I always keep a little blanket on top, you know, just keep a little bit of dust off. I don't know why I'm moving it. We just need to set her down. All the cables are built in. 1, 2, 3, up and forward and maybe. So pretty quick operation. It literally just sits in there. The case goes on top of it. It's custom fit, so it fits around everything. And underneath of it, there actually is some storage space. So I put some mats in there. Back in the day when I had the JBL 15-inch subs, they actually fit perfectly inside the case with Berfa. We've since are no longer using those. These subs are much bigger, so can't do that anymore. But you probably could fit some smaller subs underneath there. There's a lot of space. But also in there, we have the laptop stand and the rugs. Go ahead and take those out, put the cover back on, and get Berfa's case out of the way. All right, like I said, here is the Berfa itself. I will say, seen some better days. I think it's got like 3 coats of paint on it. It does get a little bit nicked. I built this whole thing custom. I have developed a split on either side here, but that's not actually structural, so it's not a huge deal. This is my cool little laptop stand. It's literally just gas pipe. There's a gas pipe connection down through there. You just slide her down on, screw it in, and voila, there's your laptop stand. And one of the nice parts about this laptop stand is nobody's gonna bump this. Nobody can make this laptop stand move, so your laptop is not gonna go flying, which is nice. And a lot of people have been concerned because I set up like this where I'm right up on the dance floor. People are dancing right here. Yes, they could get up near me, but if they bump this laptop stand, the worst they're gonna do is turn it, maybe bump it a little bit forward, but I've never had anybody actually knock my laptop off. The closest thing been to it is like someone pushing on the side here, and it turns a little bit, but no one has actually knocked it off, which is nice. So there's a little hole right here that has a few cables that come up. One is to power my DMX transmitter. One is for my laptop. This plugs into the built-in USB hub in the DJM S7, and one is a power cable for my Windows laptop. Yes, I use a Windows laptop. Been using them for years. They work great. So everything in here is all self-contained. This lid does pop off, so I can switch this out if I ever want to change up what I wanted to do on the inside. I also have a built-in power connection in there for my LED sign that I like to put on the front of the actual booth. And there are a couple screws in there to be able to hang the LED sign, but you guys can kind of see it's all wired in below, power strips, all that goodness down below. And conveniently, all of this is wired to a power strip right here underneath the cup holder that allows me to turn it on and off and put the cup holder right back in. This of course is all wired on this nice little snake right here, bunch of Velcro ties and everything. That allows me to literally just toss this right back to the rack. I have plenty of slack, and all I gotta do is plug the power in and plug my left and right in, and I'm set and ready to go when it comes to the DJ booth. I also have some cut throughs built here. These conveniently are wide enough to fit a full sheet of paper or a tablet as well, which makes it nice to be able to just store that here while DJing. I will say one piece of hardware that's really let me down. I have this Sennheiser IEM system. For whatever reason, it does not work correctly. All I get is a ton of bass in my earbuds, and I just don't understand it, but that was all wired into this 1/4 inch right here. Also tried some different cables, and it just doesn't work. So I'm back to hardwired. Maybe we'll get a better IEM system. This is the entry-level Sennheiser. It's still like 600 bucks, but maybe I'll get a better one this year. Back to pliers though. Pioneer DJM S7 is the center mixer. I had an S9. Now that I'm using stems, I needed the separation of hot cues on both boards. The S9, it's both. So better mixer, just swapped right in. Also went ahead and upgraded to the Rain 12 MK2s. That way I can see the BPM right on the platter. And just a little bit more functionality when it comes to using it. There's another scroll wheel here in case for some reason something breaks there. There's some doubling. I got options, which is nice. So that is Berfa. So while we're on the topic of Berfa, I want to show you guys my Berfa bag. So this bag right here comes with me to all my events, and it has everything I need for Berfa when it comes to the accessories and things that I might need. It's just a simple Ariba bag, but inside of it, and it's not the best bag. I mean, I really should get something a little more padded, but inside of it, I have my sound switch Control 1 and my DMX Pro from Both Lighting USA DMX Pro. And you can kind of see I already have it pre-wired. So I already have the DMX cable connected between the Control 1, and I already have my USB cable ready to go to plug into my laptop for sound switch. So this literally just goes and plops up right here on the side. I normally put the DMX transmitter on the front, so that way it has a little more clearance. This will plug right into my laptop. The Control 1 sits right here conveniently on the side, and I can plug in the power for the DMX right here because it's already wired into the booth. Now this right here is definitely an afterthought, and I don't necessarily like it because it just kind of sits on the table, other than I would rather it be sunk in. But if you guys go back in my channel, when I first built this booth, I was using sound switch. For sound switch, I had a dedicated lighting operator behind me in the back booth running all of my lighting. Now that I'm using sound switch, it's built into the laptop that I'm DJing on, so it all has to be up here. So considerations had to be made. I don't actually have the space inside of here because I did not build this with the intentions to do so for it to be that way. So that is why Booth 2.0 will be coming in 2026. It'll be a new DJ booth setup of some sort. And it'll probably have some cooler things with all of this tidied up and built in. Also in my bag right here, other than spare batteries and some DMX receivers, which I don't necessarily need anymore unless I'm using cold sparks, because the battery powered movers have it built into them. I keep my LED sign. I have the Better Together LED sign. That is kind of my go-to sign that I've been using with this booth since I developed it. And what I've done is I have some fishing line here that is pre-tied to the right dimensions to be able to attach to the inside hooks that I put inside of the booth to allow me to basically connect this all up. So if I move my bag out of the way, I'll go ahead and carefully attach my LED sign. Normally I just prop it up, hold it up with my hand, and I can go in, attach that to that one, and attach this one. Just fix that up. And then when I get power to the booth, the sign itself will also turn on as well. And this sign right here has a high, medium, and low. It's pretty convenient. Typically I'm always leaving it on low though, because anything over low is literally way too powerful. This is a good point to say. I will link videos and product information for everything that is in my DJ setup in the links down below. There's full videos on building that whole entire rack. I believe I did a whole 2-part series on it. Never made a video building this out because it was kind of an experiment at the time, but I have made some videos since on it. And of course I made reviews on pretty much all the products that we're going to talk about except for the newest battery powered movers. That video is to come. So with that said, I think the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and assemble all of the tubes. And if it weren't for me actually filming this video, we'd probably be done by now, and I would need 2 people. But I've only spent 30 minutes so far, even recording this video, setting up all this stuff. So for me to be able to do all of that, I probably literally could power through and have this done in 10 minutes. But let's go ahead and assemble all the tubes. And you know, now that I'm getting older, I like to use tables, not bending over to set up all this stuff. But right here we have the Both Lighting USA tube stands. There is the base plate. I just need my middle plate, this guy right here. Screws on conveniently right there. What I'm gonna do is go through and assemble all of my tube stands real quick, so that way I am ready to go. So I'm just gonna go through and assemble all 4 of these. It's a very simple process to get these put together. It is just 2 connections, need to be screwed together on each. And these are adjustable stands for the awesome 360 tubes, which honestly, they're like the greatest thing ever to come out. I will say the tube stands are not my favorite. I don't necessarily love these. And my boy Joe Bunn actually came out with a new set of stands. We're trying to get a pair here to give some comparison videos. He ended up making his own. If you didn't know Joe Bunn, he makes the Bunn Command Center. I don't have one anymore. I used to, made a whole video on it. But he's got a Mark II coming out as well that I want to get my hands on because it's a lot more portable and a lot more compact. And as you guys can see, as much as I say that I don't really care for these tube stands, it's not that hard to assemble them. They're just a little finicky. You gotta be very careful with the connections when you're threading these together to make sure you don't cross thread them. And you'll see when I go to actually raise and lower the tubes, the connection up here that allows you to tighten it is a little finicky as well. All right, with all the tube stands done, I can lay all these down on the ground and we can get our 360 tubes and attach them to the tube stands. I also like to, when I set them down, just give a nice little snug pull here at the top, make sure all the connections are nice and tight and screwed together. Here is our Both Lighting 360 tubes. I'm a big fan of all soft bags on the tubes. The 4-unit soft bags are so much easier to transport than the giant 8-unit flight case. So all of our guys use the 4-unit soft bags. Same thing with the 4-unit soft bag for the tube stands. And I guess also self-explanatory, I don't use any of the ground feet. I think I have a set in here. I always bring a couple of them on occasion because sometimes, you know, you might be on a stage, you might be on a weird height ceiling, you might need something shorter. But for the most part, I always try to use the stands to get them up nice and high so that way they have the max visibility and they're also really utilized then. Because if you put them down low on the ground feet, they're gonna get blocked by people on the dance floor pretty easily. We're gonna go ahead and assemble these tube stands, pull the tubes out of their bags, and screw them on. And this is typically what I get my assistants to do. It's really quick and easy for them to do. It's kind of repetitive. So I normally worry about the audio and they go through and assemble all the tubes. All of these tubes that I'm gonna assemble now, I always put all 4 of them behind my DJ setup in a situation like this. Of course, like I talked about at the beginning, if you can't set up your DJ setup on the dance floor, I'm gonna go set these up behind the Sweetheart table 9 times out of 10. And I'm a big fan of 2 and 2, so 2 high in the middle and 2 low on the outside. So the outside ones I'm gonna keep at this height right here, just right at the bottom. The other ones I'm going to raise them up, and this is where I said these stands could be a little finicky. If they work nicely like this one is right now, it just slides up and you just tighten down this at the bottom and you're good to go. Let's see if we got one that's acting up a little bit right now. I believe this one is right here. It's like, it's just tight. You gotta like just pull it out. And then when you go to screw it down, it doesn't necessarily want to screw down fully. Like I could just keep turning this and turning this and turning this. And eventually, it may or may not get tight. So little to say, the stands are a little finicky. Honestly, they're pretty cheap. I think 4 of these will run you about 500 bucks, maybe a little more than 500 bucks. You get what you pay for is the best way to put it. I will say though, even with the finickiness of them, they are way better, way stronger, way more sturdy than any of the mic stand options that I've shown before where you use a mic stand with an adapter. These are so much better. The only thing that's better than them right now is the newer stands that Joe Bunn has coming out under the Bunn DJ Gear company. So when we get hands on those, we'll make a review. We'll show you guys what those are about. They're significantly more expensive. They're about double the cost of what these are, but they are a lot more robust and sturdy. With that said though, been using these stands for 2 years now. I don't see a problem with them as long as you're just used to them being a little finicky and a little difficult to use sometimes. So set them up. Right now is also a point that I turned on all my tubes because I have 4 individual DMX addresses for each of these tubes that correspond to my sound switch. And I'm using the sound switch profile that is sold on BowFlightingUSA.com. Currently have the Diamond, I believe it's the Diamond one. It's the newest one that's out right now. And each tube has its own individual address that I have to use. And it works best when they're corresponding. So it's like 193, 270, 350, 353, and then 433, I believe. They're all in 80 channel mode, so whatever the 80 plus all those are. So I want to orchestrate my tubes in that order, whether left to right or right to left. I like to do 193, 273. You get the idea. That's how I'm going to lay them out. And we'll take one quick step back to make sure we still have good symmetry. Looks like I need to move that tube over just a little bit to the right to make it perfect. But we have a nice cascading effect right there with our tubes, all in line beautifully. And we'll fill in with our movers right here in a minute. And I'll also note one thing with the tubes, I always like to make sure I face the screens to the back. So that way the screens are not pointing out because there is a little green LED that blinks when they're in use. So again, pointing them to the back, nice clean look with the white tubes. All right, moving on to my new favorite piece of gear that I'm using for my DJ setups, and I never thought I would actually think that this made my setups any quicker, but it does significantly. And that is the brand new BPM beams and spots from BowFlighting USA. These are battery powered movers, BPM, and I've been amazed. If you saw one of my latest gig logs, I don't know if I posted it, I've also posted it on Instagram a few times. These things are insane. The battery life is amazing. You get like 6+ hours of battery. It's amazing how not having to plug in a power cord is actually significantly faster. Mostly on the fact that you don't have to get a power cable, you don't have to find an outlet, you don't have to run it, you don't have to gaff tape it. I didn't think it was faster, but it's significantly faster. And these have built-in wireless DMX. So let me show you how they mount up to the gravity stands real quick. Conveniently, there is a bracket that comes with the actual lights themselves. These are the beam fixtures. The spots are basically the identical ones. The spots are out at another event right now. But we bought some of these bolts right here. I don't remember what size these are, but these are the bolts for the gravity stands. And we got them just short enough so that they fit in here perfectly. And that allows us now to be able to set the mover on top of the stand and then screw it in. Pretty easy. Just set it up on here. Beautiful. Line up the hole. You can either take a wrench or you can just turn the mover, but I recommend taking a wrench and then tightening that bolt down. There's a little close-up of how that works, but basically you can wrench that down. Some people like to reverse it and take these two Allen bolts out and bolt the bracket first, then mount the mover. I prefer to do it that way, mounting, because the actual mover will sit on the bracket. It's weighted perfectly, and then you can just screw in that bolt itself. But the key is to make sure you don't get a super long bolt. That way you can actually, so that way the bolt is not resting on the actual mover. You need it short enough that you can, when it's not screwed in or when you unscrew it, it can be unthreaded from here. So let me unthread it real quick and show you guys a close up real quick of this. So the key is here, let me unthread this. So now it's fully unthreaded. The key is that the bolt can loosely go in and out. So as you can see right there, you can balance it right on top, and then you just line up the hole and then you screw it in. If you had a shorter bolt than that, it actually probably would work a little bit better because you don't need that full. You just need about 1/4 of an inch of thread holding it, and that's it. But because it's loosely in there, it's not resting on top of it. If you had a longer bolt, the head of the bolt, if you had a longer bolt, the mover would be resting on the top of the bolt and it'd be really hard to turn it and get it in. But because it is loosely there, you can just loosely thread that all the way in. And then of course take a wrench and tighten it down. And I already did that one over there. We of course been taking our sweet time with this setup, but now we're down to basically the final step, well, final 2 steps. And that is running our audio and our power signals. And that's because in my opinion, other than running back side fills, you've seen me make some videos on wireless audio. I am a big proponent of never running your main speakers on battery powered, or battery, or in general, wireless audio. Battery in some situations, but in general, for most of our weddings, our main speakers, they're loud, they suck a lot of energy, so they're gonna need their own dedicated power and their own hardwired audio feed. That's the only cabling that we're gonna need to do, is cabling our booth here to our audio rack, and then our audio rack to our speakers. And the patch panel I showed you earlier is gonna make this thing incredibly quick. So inside of here, we have the gig tote. This is falling apart. And inside that is where I have my 2 wireless microphones and some extra spare cables, batteries, and miscellaneous things that I may or may not need at my events. And then the main piece is this cable tote right here, which for the sake of it, I don't really need to pull the whole thing out. So I'm just gonna take the lid off. I need my power cable. This is my power con to the wall. I will need a couple 15-foot power cables to run to my speakers. I will say there are combo cables you can buy out there that are both XLR and power in one. I will say from my standpoint, it's rare that I have a setup like this where the speakers are conveniently at the right spot that I could use a cable like that. I'd rather have the flexibility to run my speakers differently in different situations, whether I need to daisy chain them together because all the dance floor is over there, my DJ booth's here, and I'm gonna go in from one speaker to the next speaker because it's a lot simpler. I'd rather not have the actual combo cables and just have separate ones. If you're always setting up like this, yeah, that's great. You can use combo cables, but for me, it doesn't always work out that way. I also need 2 of my 15-foot XLRs. Right there is 1, right there is 2, and this should be my other extension cord right here. And that is all I need other than some gaff tape to basically gaff tape down the speakers. So 5 cables, that's all we need. While I'm at it, I'm gonna go over here. We have our wire loom coming from the DJ booth itself, which has a Edison power to run the booth and 2 of the XLRs. And this right here is basically a combo cable that I made myself. So I'm gonna run that power to the front, run these to the back, plug them in, and right. While I'm at it also, I'm gonna go ahead and hook up my power main, give that a little toss back behind here to where our power is gonna be plugged in at. That'll come around here, plug in here. Very quick, very simple. If you guys have never built a patch panel, even if you have a DJ case, these patch panels make things so much faster to set up. Same thing here, these are my audio runs for my speakers. That is gonna go to my high right because it's front of house situation. And that's pretty much it for the back here. Then I'm gonna plug these into the front. So now I got my cables to come over here to my speaker, both power and my audio. And conveniently in this setup, they are exactly roughly 15 feet away from the main setup. Plug in my power here, and I'm gonna try and make these cables look as clean as possible. And we'll throw down a piece of gaff tape here, connect these wires together. All right, same thing over here, audio, power. Again, you can see where a dual cable would come in nice and handy for this. Be able to do one cable to run both. And I always like to tuck my cables back behind these subwoofers as much as possible because they block everybody's view. Now, we definitely want to get these movers up in the air. We don't want them at this height because at this height, they're gonna hit people right in the eyes. So we want to get it up a good amount. And for me, that's about 3 notches on the gravity stand. So let me get my pin here. I'm gonna raise it up. We got 1, 2, and 3. So I'm in the 3rd hole on the gravity stand. So there's 2 empty holes and I'm in the 3rd hole right here. This gets it up at a good 6 feet in the air, nice and adequate. And I find that 6 feet in the air is enough that this thing will spin, it will move around a little bit. But as you can see right there, I'm pushing with all my might and that's about all it'll move. They're not gonna move that much. I find that 6 foot in the air is enough that it gets it up nice and high, but it's not as much wobble that it makes anybody concerned. I've gone higher before, it's not a concern to me. You always can throw a sandbag on the base plate as well, but I believe this is a 50-pound base plate already. It's super wide, it works beautifully. And we're done too. The movers are fully set and ready to go. All I can do is flick the power switch, wireless DMX built into it, addresses are set, and we're ready to rock and roll. And like I mentioned, a couple pieces of gaff tape. We're gonna tuck this cable back as far as we can. Make all this cleanly looped together right there. And then another piece over here, pulling those cables nice and taut. And then if you wanted to, you could put another piece of gaff tape across that way. But I have these mats for that exact reason. So that way I can toss the mat down and now I don't have to worry about using extra gaff tape, which is quite expensive. So now, of course, we do have the ugly back rack right here that we want to hide. So I'm gonna go ahead and get my facade. This right here is the Rockville 6-panel facade. They make a 4-panel and then they make a 2-panel addition that you can buy to make it, honestly, as many as you want it, really. You make it 6, 8, whatever. I have the 6-panel version. Seems to be the perfect amount. The bag is pretty nice. I've been using it for a year now. Haven't broke the bag yet. But one of my favorite parts is it's an accordion style. So literally it just accordions out and it's quick and easy to throw up in front of any setup that you have. So literally all I gotta do is just pull this down. And as you can see, 6 panels is quite a lot. You don't necessarily need 6 panels always. It's bigger than what my actual setup is. So what I'll do is I'll just fold 1 panel back and I'm just gonna use 5 instead of 6. Center it up as best as possible. And now all I gotta do is toss down my mats. One of these right here is for my feet. I got more of these little, these are just bath mats. I find that bath mats are the best because they got this nice rubber texture bottom on them. Get you some black ones. Doesn't have to be that expensive. And then I have another one for my assistant or whoever is back behind here to block that one as well. And there is it, guys. That's the complete setup. And what I told you guys earlier is typically if I have an assistant, we can set up this whole setup in less than 20 minutes. Sometimes 15, sometimes 10. We can do it incredibly fast. Honestly, the only thing that holds us up is getting the gear into the venue typically. And showing you guys right here on the facade is what I talked about where I folded back one of these. So I have a whole nother panel I can use there. Again, this is the Rockville white facade. It comes in a 4-unit and then there are 2-unit add-ons. So I added 2 more. So that way I can go bigger if I need to, if I got more to block, etc. If I need to widen this out, maybe I put the speakers back here on either corner. Another part I love about it is there's no up or down. So this could be the top or the bottom. It's got the same feet on both sides. And conveniently that's big enough to run wires underneath them as well. And these don't unscrew. This thing's pretty well thought out. Accordion design, so it's quick and easy to deploy. The feet never pop out, never fall out, and it's pretty damn cheap too. So highly recommend that facade as well. So now all we gotta do is turn the power on, and of course all of our lighting is battery powered. And we did skip some lighting. Right here I have my uplights that I bring to every event. And these are the IR4s. I have 16 of them that I bring to every single event, conveniently in an 8-unit case. They stay in these cases, they charge in these cases, super compact. These briefcases are amazing. And what we'll do is we'll take these out and we'll go plop them around the room, and that'll be our uplighting package for the event. So this is what I'm doing mostly, uplighting, and then this is my main DJ setup. We got 2 movers, battery powered, and 4 tubes on the back wall, beautifully with our speakers, and everything is super clean and super professional. And in general, the rugs in combination with minimizing our cable runs help to make this clean and super quick. If there's one thing I've learned over the last 13 years of being a DJ, it's cables are what'll slow you down when it comes to setup. So as much as you guys can do to minimize the amount of cables you need to run, in my case, literally, we only have to run power and audio to our main speakers and hook up the main rack. That's it. So however you achieve that to get your cabling down as much as possible is what I would highly recommend. And one of the best ways you can do it is by getting battery powered lighting. Battery powered uplights, battery powered movers, battery powered tubes, even battery powered cold sparks are all options to make minimizing cabling as best as possible. So with that said, let's go ahead and turn it on. We're gonna just turn our firmament on, 118 volts, beautiful. Power strip's already on. Mics are coming up, audio board's on. We should have power now running to the main rack here, or the Berfa. Turn the power switch on there. Everything boots up and we're up and running. Just gotta hook the laptop up and we're off to the races for DJing today. And with the power turned on and the lighting turned on, that right there is the complete setup for what I'm rocking in 2025. Of course, we have some additional things I'm gonna be changing out and adding on this year, so stay tuned for those videos coming out as I add on different things. We're gonna switch out the audio board and we might upgrade a little bit of some of the pieces down the line this year, so stay tuned, more to come. But this currently right now is my full setup for 2025. It is definitely not a cheap setup by any means, but of course I've been doing this for quite a bit now, and this is what I've come up with for the fastest, quickest, and best setup that I can do. If you guys don't know, I'm actually an engineer by trade. That's what I went to school for. So I'm all about efficiency and problem solving and trying to make things as quick as possible for my events. And this is what I got. I would say the only thing that could be quicker is if somehow I could combine this booth with the audio rack into one unit. Of course, there's things like video booths out there. Marcellus has one that we might make a video on later. He's got a full custom one that we had a guy make up in Ohio for him. Might make a video on that, but I'm not necessarily a fan of the TV booths in general, so I got some different ideas for what I want to do and how I want to make a new booth going into 2026 that will capitalize on all of that together. But anyways, that right there is it. I would say the biggest thing, guys, right now is battery powered everything when it comes to lighting. Battery powered movers, these right here are the next big thing. We had battery uplighting. Any of you guys that have been doing this a while, I remember back in the day when we did not have battery uplighting, when it was quite expensive or the batteries were actually shit back in the day. We had to plug in all of our lights around the room. If we wanted to DMX them, we had to run cables with them. Then wireless DMX got a little bit better. It was a pain in the butt. Wireless uplighting, battery powered, especially these small compact IR4s now. This is insane that we've came so far in battery-powered wireless technology for lighting that this is now what I can go plop around a 30 by 30, 40 by 40 banquet hall and do uplighting that lights the whole entire wall up. These are insane. Now we got these cool tubes that do 360 designs, and now the next big thing, battery-powered movers. Battery-powered beams are out now. The battery-powered spots are out. Full video coming on those. Battery-powered wash-style movers are also in the works as well. Super excited for that. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the 2025 setup. Leave a comment down below, like the video, hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. And like always, guys, keep them records spinning, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.